Hey everybody, welcome to another live episode of The Grid. We're glad you guys are here. My name is Scott Kelby, and joining me, as always, a beautiful man, a can of ham, the human trailer hitch, it's RC Concepcion.
What's going on, everybody? How you guys doing? What's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, I'm good, I had just had a week's vacation.
I know this is like the first time that I'm seeing you like in person. Like,
I know, yeah. I've just been in meetings since I got back today, but we got back late last night, and I slept a few hours, and I'm back. I'm still 6 hours behind, so I'm a little tired.
Oof.
But
now, before you do anything,
yes.
I've got a hijack.
Okay, go ahead.
I need to take this hijack. This
Nice.
is one of those things. I was playing on Amazon. We're trying to get everything ready here to set up for the grid. And one of the things that I noticed was, as I'm scrolling down through the Amazon book section, I'm like, oh, get out, look at this. Photoshop Lightroom CC book for digital photographers. I'm just going to go ahead and share this real quick because I thought this was kind of neat and it was definitely worth mentioning. So Photoshop Lightroom CC books for digital photographers. Oh, bam, #1 bestseller in Adobe Photoshop, right? But what I thought was even neater was if you went over here, bestsellers in Photoshop, bam, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 different sections.
Yeah.
Like they should just go the Scott Kelby section at this point.
I don't want to brag, but I'm excited. But it's also #1 in the photography category, and I have 5 books in the top 20 of all photography. So I want to thank everybody who has bought one of my books. My son is going to a college out of state. It really means a lot. Thank you very much when you pick up those books. We're going to be giving away a copy, by the way, today on the show, the Lightroom CC book.
Yeah, like I'm looking now. I just went to the regular bestsellers in photography. Bam.
Yeah, it's #1.
Bam. Bam.
I know, I'm very excited.
Bam.
And we're giving away the #5 book today.
This book is amazing.
This is great. Roberto Valenzuela, who wrote Picture Perfect Practice, has now wrote Picture Perfect Posing. It is the #5 book of all photography books on Amazon. We're going to be giving away that today and a copy of this book from Adobe Press. It's The Hidden Power of Adjustment Layers in Adobe Photoshop by Scott Valentine. We're giving all that away today and a ticket to my Swingin' London seminar coming up in just a few weeks in London.
In London.
You can't say England. I said London, England, and man, some guy let me have it on the web. Because London is always London. It's never England. You don't say New York, New York. You don't say San Francisco, California. And you should never say London, England. He let me have it.
Wow.
Anyway, there's the tour. So I'm looking forward. He was not at my seminar, by the way, because everybody at my seminar last year was awesome. So that guy was not there. But anyway, thanks to all the folks that did come out last year. We'll be giving away a ticket today. We have a lot to talk about. First, I want to talk about you were in a gallery in New York last week. You just stopping and looking at other people's pictures?
I was taking a look at a bunch of other people's pictures, and in the middle of that,
aren't
there
some
were
of those yours?
Of my own. Yes, we did the Canon from Light to Ink campaign, and it was basically a showcase for photographers that want to be able to print big, and they had a bunch of different people share on social media. We had a couple of other people that were just like,
yeah, RC, stop. Okay. RC tries to soft sell this on such a level. He's so modest, but here's what happened. He got to fly and actually go out and do a project. He could basically go pretty much anywhere you wanted to go and go on location, shoot it, and you flew to Mexico?
Yeah, I flew to Guanajuato, Mexico, and I took a couple shots there. And then they printed them, and they printed a couple of different things. And
yes, they did.
It was pretty cool.
And he got a gallery showing, and his mom came up. He was telling me right before we went on the air. This is my first chance to talk to him. I literally just got in.
Yeah, it was kind of neat. I got a call that we were flying up. Jen and my daughter were flying up, and I got a call like the day before. They were just like, hey, listen, we're going to be coming up. So a bunch of my family came down, and I'm going to try to see if I could actually find the picture where we were all kind of hanging out.
Good. This is great.
It was cool. You know, it's the part that I think that meant the most to me out of all of it was the fact that, I mean, and I always tell the story here. So here's a lot of my family members. I'll go ahead and I'll just post that. So that's my mom, and these are 2 of my brothers. I'm one of 7. This is my cousin and my uncle and my sister-in-law. And it was kind of weird because it's like we grew up, you know, in abject poverty in the South Bronx, right? My dad was like a superintendent. He made like $150 a week, you know, 217, I think, the day he died. So to come from living in the basement in the South Bronx with not really anything. I mean, my mom and dad never went to school a day in their life. They never did anything. And to go from that to having a gallery showing in New York just down, it's a very humbling experience. And it's one of those things where I'm like, you know, they didn't have a lot, but what they had, they gave tons of. And to be able to kind of have her there while we were doing that, I thought that was kind of neat. It was good. The biggest gift for me was to see how pumped she was to be
I
there.
bet. And you know what?
So,
I never got a chance to meet your dad. But your mom is awesome. She is just an awesome, awesome person.
So it was pretty cool. It was a great time. We're very, very happy to do that. Thank you so much to Canon for the opportunity and for all of the people that submitted and the winners that were there. Right, Erin Monroe and Rachel Hine were also.
I bet they were excited.
Oh, it was great. It was really, really, really cool. So thank you so much for that.
Okay, we got lots of topics today, but before we do, I think it's time to check in with a very special man and a very special part of our studio, which we call the other part, Mr. Brad Moore.
What's going on?
Brad, what's going on?
Not much.
You know, is it just me, or did you go home and trim your beard? Because it looks better than when I first saw you today.
I didn't go home. I just went out to the CVS and got some razors and came back to the
you just got some razors. Oh, you're shaving at work. That's good to hear.
Yes.
That's a great use of your time. Anyway.
Actually, I shaved at work yesterday.
Did you?
I was sitting there and I was like,
to be shaving.
I needed to do something on video, and one of the things that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be really good is to not look homeless. When I'm home.
No, that's good.
So I'm going for non-homeless. So this was kind of neat.
Okay, so Brad, I really didn't get to check in with you there. How you doing, Brad? I saw Brad briefly today in the parking lot as he was going to get razors.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. So did you shoot anything this week? Oh wait, you had a huge shoot while I was gone.
I did.
Right, you got to shoot a third day.
Yes.
At Red Rocks.
Yeah.
And if you didn't get to go see it on my blog, Brad did a wonderful post about it. Great pictures. You used 2 remote cameras on stage. Really, really great stuff. I think it's one of your best posts and one of your best shoots. Go to scottkelby.com and see his stuff. Hey, while you're there, we have a guest blogger also today. That's Courtney Daly right there. And she's a beauty photographer from Los Angeles, and she's got some just terrific stuff. Anyway, but make sure you scroll down, keep going. If you keep going far enough, you'll see Brad. Keep going, go.
It was last Friday.
It's last Friday, so if you go a little further, you're going to see Brad. That's not Brad. That's Corey. There's Brad. Whoa, okay. Look at that headshot. That looks like a Peter Hurley headshot if I've ever seen one.
Is.
All right, so here he's giving you some, behind-the-scenes stuff at Red Rock. And then he had all access, so he had, which is very hard to get with a band, all access stuff. And he flew on the plane with them. He was backstage. He was everywhere. To get that kind of access these days is just about impossible. But luckily, their drummer is a photographer, and that helps. And so he's kind of a friend of ours, and Brad and him have become buddies. And so he invited him to come and chronicle this very, very special concert. And it just, as you go down there, he's showing a lot of behind the scenes stuff here, but it gets really, really great. Look at that.
Scroll faster, Meredith. Scroll faster.
Yeah, no, now we're getting a look.
Yeah.
Look at this. Yeah, right?
That's when you show how amazing he is.
Look at that shot. I love that shot, right? That was one of my favorite ones, because that's a sight you don't get to see very often. And look at that from behind the drummer. These
Brad
are awesome.
Just does amazing.
Yeah, way to go, Brad. You crushed this, buddy. Anyway, if you go see the whole thing, but also read the story, he talks a lot about technique and stuff. All right, I'm going to reveal something now. This is unrelated to Brad.
Oh.
So I was on vacation last week, a whole family vacation, and my son wanted to get a tattoo. And well, he's an adult now. And in support of him, I also got a tattoo.
Did you
to
really?
show my support, because it's with kids and getting tattoos and stuff. Wow. So I went at the same day.
You haven't had any tattoos ever?
I've never had a tattoo. And so to support him and to show him that, I was cool with it, because he got his on his back, I got mine. I got one tattoo. I almost got a second. I got one on my arm, and I'm going to reveal it here. But before I reveal it, I need to tell you a few things. You wouldn't be able to actually know this, but I have a farmer's tan on a level you cannot believe. Like, if you think my face looks white, wait till you see my arm. It's shocking. It looks like I'm wearing a white undershirt. So you have to get past that to actually see the tattoo. Now, the tattoo is pretty large, all right? And so I picked it out, and
Let's cut over to Brad's set. Let's go cut over to Brad's set.
Cut over to Brad.
Look, empty.
Empty. Brad's gone, so he's over here.
Like right here.
All right, and so my son picked a tattoo, or a couple of tattoos for his back that are very personal. One is a cross. He's has a lot of faith, There's a cross, and then he also picked some Latin words from a band that he follows and stuff, and all this. It's very, his looks really, really cool, right. And he's super muscular. I was like, you know, he looks great. I am not that guy, but I'm going to show you it anyway. I have to take off my shirt to actually do this, and it's on my arm. It's not a tramp stamp or anything. Okay, damn. Which camera are we going to?
Yeah, the tattoo cam right there.
Tattoo cam. All right, you in focus? All right, no. You might want to back off just a hair. Yeah, there we go. Okay, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Chicken lo mein.
Yes, chicken lo mein. Come on.
You got
Come on.
Chicken lo mein tattoo.
It's the best tattoo ever. My son goes, my son is laughing. He's uncontrollable. And he's like, do you like chicken lo mein? I'm like, would I get a tattoo? If I don't, I love chicken lo mein. My son had never had chicken lo mein. We drove to a Panda Express. Yes?
You mean chicken lo lame?
Oh!
Chicken lo lame.
Come on. Now, I wanted to get on the other arm. I almost was this close to going back and getting pork fried rice. Now, the actual symbol is the Chinese symbol for teacher.
Right.
But I didn't want to write teacher under it because that's what they wanted to do. And I'm like, I need something that's more personal to me.
And you do love your chicken lo mein.
I do love my chicken lo mein.
Wow.
Chicken lo mein. Now, here's the good news. It's just a henna tattoo.
Okay.
It's just henna. It comes off in like, 2-3 weeks, it's gone. And my son, same thing with him on the back. He wanted to try out some stuff, and we're like...
Oh, so it's not a, so it's not a real tattoo?
It's not a real tattoo. It goes away. It's called a Jaguar or something like that.
I've never, okay.
It only lasts like 3 weeks. So
I was going to wait till the
chicken
commercial
lo
break and be like, what the hell?
I know. It only lasts a few weeks, so it's okay. Anyway.
I got a tattoo once. I've got a couple of tattoos, and I wound up. This is dumb story. Like I went with an ex-girlfriend, and she was like, "I want to get a Celtic knot wrapped. No, what is it? A Celtic knot wrapped around this Mexican thing because you're Mexican and I'm Irish, and I'm doing stuff, and it'll be symbolic for us." And I was like, "Lady, I just want to get a dragon. I'm sorry." It was just kind of weird because it's like
you could have got pork fried rice or sweet and sour pork, and you missed a perfect opportunity.
Chicken lo mein,
dude. So my son was laughing so hard to that. I mean, it was the best father and son time. You streamers, 69-320, you can set a white point on that arm. I know, it's terrible, right? I don't get out in the sun as much as I should, but my arms are like, well, you can see
my chest felt funny
when
you were talking about
and then,
this,
whoa,
when you were talking about that moment, you're like chicken lo mein, like I felt like a little tingly in here, and I was like, he did just get... How did I miss that he likes chicken lo mein this much?
Dude, I love chicken lo mein. So much so. Well, anyway, let's see. Hey, we got a lot to talk about. Our topic today, believe it or not, is what your next DSLR should look like. And we started talking about this, basically about the evolution of DSLRs. Like, what's next, right? Like, what's the next thing? And so we're going to talk about that. We have some ideas. Of course, we want to hear your ideas as well. But before we get to our topic, RC was talking to me this morning about something I had not heard about. Now, I heard that Taylor Swift wrote a letter to Apple about not being, why she wasn't wanted to be included in the Beats Music. What was the Beats Music? I guess it's Apple Music subscription plan. Right. Now, the article I read was actually about why her letter was so good. Right. It was like from a business standpoint and from a marketing standpoint, why her letter was so persuasive, how it was written so correctly, and it was really a very, very, it was a great look at the process. So all I knew up to this point was that she wrote a very eloquent letter to Apple, and Apple, I guess, was pretty much open to it because it just resonated with her, and because she's Taylor Swift. By the way, I sang many Taylor Swift songs this weekend, so our daughter was with us. She likes Taylor Swift. My son tolerates Taylor Swift. And we have my wife's iPod jacked into the rental car. And so my wife had some songs. We heard many Taylor Swift, including Shake It Off, which we all know the words to. Anyway, so RC told me an angle about this that I had not heard. RC.
Well, what happened with that was after she went back and forth, and I thought it was really cool that she went back and forth with Apple on that. I think Eddie Q was the one who got back to her and said, all right, well, listen, we're going to reconsider this. There was a photographer, and I don't want to paraphrase this, so I'm just going to go down and take a look here real quick as to who it was.
This was on CNN?
That did it. Well, Jason Sheldon wrote this open article, or an open letter to Taylor Swift. And basically what he was saying was, listen, if you're in support of artists, and you want to make sure that artists retain rights, then why would you have a company going out there and saying that when you shoot at a concert, these are the stipulations, that they get unlimited, worldwide, royalty-free, total access to these pictures. If you're a photographer, you have zero rights to any of these pictures.
That you take of Taylor Swift's concert.
That you take of Taylor Swift's concert.
Right.
Now, you can do something with them, but in order for you to do something with them, you have to write in permission ahead of time, this, that, and get approval from that, which, as I understood it and how he explained it, was that never happens. They will never respond to you. They will never ask you. Like, you can submit
you're
it.
at the bottom of the
you're
list
just
of
in
things
the bottom
that
of
never get answered.
email, right? So he was saying, why would you say that you're in support of artists when photographers, you're completely okay with ripping off completely?
Yeah. So you're in support of musicians as artists, but you're not in support of photographers as artists.
Right. So I was like, well, that's actually a very fair statement. And I don't want to necessarily speak to that because I think Brad would speak very well to that because he works in photography spaces. And a lot of people see a lot of pictures.
He doesn't want to answer any of this.
But
no,
he's not going to...
I'm laughing because nobody told me we were talking about this.
Oh, we're talking about this. This is a subtopic to a topic.
Good to know.
It's a secret topic.
Glad I could prepare.
And I wouldn't want to put Brad on the spot for any of this kind of stuff. I will just say this. As I understand it, historically, a lot of concert photographers do not get rights to be able to do this, do not get access to do what they will.
Yeah, different bands have different rules about how many songs you can shoot, what you can do with the images, and where this all blew up was with the Beyonce shot.
Right.
So a photographer took a shot of Beyonce, I guess last year.
Yep.
Was it? Took a shot and posted it, and Beyonce felt, and I would agree, I saw the picture, it wasn't a very flattering shot of Beyonce. Right. So Beyonce said, that's it, nobody shoots at my shows anymore,
right.
Unless I basically have you there shooting me. I'm not gonna let the open press to my shows anymore because I don't ever want to see a shot like that posted, you know.
Right. So
right.
and so that's where they kind of left with it. And I hate this, and I will say this because I thought it was kind of lame. I used to be a big CNN guy, and CNN's just kind of sucking as of late. There's personal opinion, my own opinion, doesn't reflect the company. But what happened with that is I saw that they put a post up that said Taylor Swift hits back at hypocrite comment. And I was like, oh, well, okay, well, maybe they just called him a hypocrite. All right, got it. So you go to CNN Money, and you realize that basically what happened here, they say the singer shot back. The singer didn't shoot back. Basically, her rep, a UK rep, sent back and said, no, the artists retain their copyrights.
Okay.
So he turned around and he was just like, no, they retain their copyrights. You're wrong. And the contract that you were using as an example on your open letter is outdated. And I was like, all right, well, A, that wasn't Taylor Swift. B, it's still not true. Like, if you read the contract is still pretty predatory against the photographers.
Okay.
But then it got worse.
Dun, dun, dun.
Because then the guy turned around and said, all right, well, if you think that that's bad, Petapixel ran this article. Basically, the guy turned around and came back to that rep and said, okay, well, if you're saying that that concert is wrong, if you're saying that contract is wrong, well, then how about this one, which is the one that they're using on the tour, that pretty much says, if you fail to comply with this authorization, agents of FEI, which is Firefly Entertainment, artists or related entities may confiscate and or destroy the technology or devices that contain the master files of the photographs and other images, including—
They can destroy your camera equipment? It says it in the contract.
So not only are they taking everything, perpetual world right to use published photographs for any non-commercial purpose in all media, including but not limited to publicity, promotion on the websites, you can get everything. You basically sign everything. And if you do not comply, they will destroy your camera and media on site.
Yeah, they have the right, look at that, to confiscate and destroy your camera equipment. Now, Brad, any comments, anything, or just pass?
No, I will comment. So here is one thing that I want to say, and that's these artists aren't necessarily sitting in a dark room going, how can we screw photographers? They probably don't even know what the contract the photographers have to sign says.
Right, you're right.
they, especially at the Taylor Swift level, like she has people doing stuff for her. So she's not looking over every single little document and contract. She's got lawyers, she's got managers.
Agreed.
So to say that she doesn't respect photographers, that's a little unfair.
But
I don't know what she does or doesn't think, but if she gets wind of this and finds out that this is what the contract says, and then doesn't do anything, then that's on her. I have nothing against Taylor Swift. I love you, Taylor, whatever.
But
you know, like, I have friends who are musicians. They just want to go on stage and do their show and go hang afterward.
Right.
Like,
hey, RC, he's got a great point. But I'll bet you Taylor Swift doesn't have any idea that stuff is in her contract.
But here's my problem with it, and that would argue, you would argue the level at which Taylor Swift, and again, I don't know, and I think that she's a great artist, and there's nothing wrong with it. But if you follow Taylor Swift to the level that I've been following it from a social media standpoint, I'm not talking about artists, but social media, like she makes it a point to get involved in really deep minutiae of things. Like she went out to like her fans. At one point she did this entire video about how she supports her fans and conversations that happen on social media. She found individual conversations that are happening. Then she turned around and grabbed it and she started sending these people anonymous Christmas presents. She made all these Instagram videos of her doing all of this stuff based on responses of what happened on social media. So I would have assumed that when she saw that this stuff was bubbling up on social media, she can see what her fans are doing, that when this stuff was bubbling up, she would turn around and go, man, if that's true, that's messed up.
Okay.
Let me go check.
Except for, you don't know what Taylor Swift is doing today. She might be in a photo session. She might be in a recording studio. Yes. She might be on tour. She may be doing a billion things. She may not say, I'm going to stop everything and go after this thing that I don't even know anything about. I've never seen the contract. I don't know. Right. So I don't want to throw it on her because.
And I wouldn't. Right? And I'm giving the benefit of the doubt.
Especially when she has tweeting birds
stuff
on her Twitter page in the background.
And like for the most part, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt that that's what's happening. But here's the thing: it's bigger than Taylor Swift. Like you hear about these kinds of contracts that happen with musicians, and it's systemic. I mean, not to put Brad on the spot for most of that stuff, but would you say that this is a common or uncommon process for photographers?
And by the way, he just used a $5 word: systemic. The password is systemic.
It varies so much. There is such a huge variety of contracts out there that photographers don't have to sign anything when they go shoot a show, all the way to you can only use the pictures for this editorial outlet and nothing beyond that, to we own the copyright to your pictures and you get the privilege of shooting us and then screw you. I'm not going to say it's systemic, that it's whatever. There's just a wide variety of contracts out there.
Yeah, it runs the gambit.
It's up to the band or artist management as to
Would you say the bigger the band, the more strict the...
I wouldn't even say that. I've shot bands at arenas that I didn't sign a single thing before I went and shot.
Really?
I've shot smaller bands at little clubs that I had to, was the rights grab, and it really depends on the management. It's not even the band or the size of the band.
All right, but have you ever shot a band with an 11 to 24?
I have, as of last Sunday.
How awesome is that lens?
That was awesome.
Dude, that lens, I used it this week on vacation. Oh my God. Okay, anyway, that's not what we were talking about.
So I'm very curious to see how this is going to end up, because I think that would be something that would kind of fly in the face of the representation of artists. And again, we have to give her the benefit of the doubt that she just hasn't seen this.
Yeah, I would say
she hasn't taken a look at this.
The last thing that on Taylor Swift's to-do list was to look at the contract photographer side.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure that her legal people, her management team, or whatever is probably using whatever boilerplate they use for everybody else that's on that tour. It's probably not one that's customized for her or anything. It's just like, here's what we use.
Right.
Okay.
So let's see what happens.
We should probably take a break. But yeah, the whole thing's interesting, and I don't think that Taylor Swift is going to have the great motivation to protect photographers like she did protect herself. Because what she did in that was, while she was speaking for the community, she was looking out for Taylor Swift, right? Which is her job. It's her job to look out for Taylor Swift. But she really has no skin in the game for photographers.
Right.
So I don't. You probably won't hear too much about it. She might come back and go, "Hey guys, thanks for making me, know about this. I'm gonna have my people look at it." Or she might even be as bold as to say, "Hey, oh God." Go back to Brad real quick.
Just real quick before we do go on break. I will say this. I had a friend who's another photographer here in Tampa, Jason Wilder, shoots a bunch of concerts and stuff. There was a band that I've shot many times, but for some reason, I had never had to sign anything, but he was going to shoot them opening for another band. It's Matt and Kim, really fun.
I know Matt and Kim.
Their contract that he got was one of those crazy releases that he wasn't going to sign, so he went on Twitter, tweeted at them and said, guys, are you even aware that this is your contract? And they're like, whoa, no, that's not cool. And so they changed it.
Wow.
So there are bands that are willing to listen.
I know, but Matt and Kim are at a slightly different level than Taylor Swift.
They were open for Blink-182. They were playing at the amphitheater.
Yeah, but
that's still
okay,
not
the key word there is opening.
I know, but still.
Taylor Swift is, as said by the Los Angeles Times today, the most powerful mouthpiece in the music business. Matt and Kim, as much as I love them, and by the way, you know some of your pictures of Matt and Kim are my favorites, are not, unfortunately. Matt and Kim are very talented, though. Really, they're very good. Okay, it is time for a break, and I'm going to read you. Brad always tells us when it's time for a break, and I don't know how he knows, but he does. I guess the control room tells you. Okay, Arnaldo tells you. Somebody tells you. He writes, time for a break. Taylor's trying to call, and I can't answer while we're on the air.
That would be awesome.
Wouldn't that be? Not going to happen. We're going to take a short break. We've got all kinds of stuff. We're going to talk about what your next DSLR should look like. We've got some ideas. We want to hear your ideas. Don't go away. We'll be right back live on The Grid.
I've been shooting headshots since 2002 when I started my headshot business. Headshot photography in New York was going crazy and I needed to earn a living, and there was never anything out there or any information for how to take a good headshot. Fast forward, headshots are crazier than ever. They need a good headshot, and it's not only actors. Everybody has a digital identity. I wrote a book called The Headshot. It is everything that I have figured out over the last 12 years of shooting these suckers and becoming known as one of the best headshot photographers in the world. I go over everything. You're gonna get the lighting, you're gonna get positioning, you're gonna get the way I direct them. It's all about expressions and connecting with your subject. I'm gonna give you all the tools to do that. When I do a headshot that somebody looks at and goes, wow, that's me, to have the ability to do that well is something that you gotta have in your repertoire as a portrait photographer. I'm Peter Hurley. This is my new book, The Headshot. Check it out wherever cool books are sold. Shebang!
Hey guys, I'm Eric Vallon. Welcome to my brand new active lifestyle photography class. Lifestyle photography is all about capturing believable moments and capturing that ideal reality in an image. In this class, we'll look at the active side of people's lifestyles, at play on the beach, out for their morning jog on Tampa Bay, or in a yoga session. We'll look at tailoring the lighting for the mood of the activity we're shooting, and also how to capture that peak moment in whatever pursuit you happen to have in front of your camera.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Grid RC. Myself here with Mr. Scott Kelby.
Myself.
Farmer Tan. Scott Kelby. So I was actually shocking. I was just like, hermano. And then all of a sudden you put your hand down and I'm like, oh,
dude.
mister.
Yeah, yours is all nice and brown all the way up. Mine just all of a sudden
go,
goes, whoa!
I'm like, the underside gets a little bit of, but other than that,
yeah,
not too much.
Well, you probably run around with your shirt off a lot, you know?
All the time.
He's kind of a nudie.
Yeah, I do, actually. I don't like clothes touching me, so it's one of those things. Awkward, revealing moment. Let's just go ahead and go to the social media winner for photographers. For Father's Day, this picture was made by Vin Tew. This is over at the KelbyOne blog. Guys, if you're not following that, make sure you go to KelbyOne.com/blog. We've been running these challenges. And
ooh, that's a
Vin
good
did
shot.
A great shot right there.
Oh, that's a good shot.
I love the shot. I love the shot. I love the father looking at the child. I think the lighting is nice and soft. The gesture says potential. It's a very whimsical looking shot.
Oh, that's nice.
So great, great capture. I love the square framing on it. I thought that was really neat.
Also, follow KelbyOne on social media because you'll always see there whatever contests we're doing. We're always doing some kind of contest, right? So what are we on? Just KelbyOne on Twitter?
Yeah, KelbyOne on Twitter.
Yeah, just go to twitter.com and twitter.com/KelbyOne. Follow us there, and there's all kinds of stuff. We give away a lot of stuff, a lot of goodies, a lot of fun stuff. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes shots and stuff and all kinds of crazy stuff. So please follow us there. So our topic today is it's not about a brand. So this isn't about choose one brand over the other or anything like that, but it is really about what's next for DSLRs. Now I have some opinions on certain things, but DSLRs have been very, very much the same for a long time. digital DSLRs. Well, D means digital. Okay, so digital DSLR have been a while, and I think that we're on the verge of some new stuff. I don't have any inside information. If I wish I did, but I don't. But oh, here's someone just wrote that I'm very tired of incremental upgrades, and so I think that's a lot of what we've seen. The cameras are getting better, but I think it's time for DSLRs to make a big jump. Now, what does that mean? What could you do to make a DSLR a big jump?
Right.
And so the first thing I'm going to talk about is number one. So Ustreamer 76101 wrote, my next DSLR is going to look like a mirrorless. What do you think? This is the first topic I want to talk about.
Okay.
Because mirrorless really hasn't caught on here in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, there's some slight gains on it. I think MPD said that there was like a 16% increase that happened year over year. So, like, that's the last thing that I saw. That it was a 16% jump.
But who's buying a lot of the mirrorless cameras? DSLR users are buying a mirrorless camera as their second camera. It's not like I'm switching to, not, of course some have.
Right.
But I'm saying, I hear everybody that I know that has a mirrorless camera, it's not their only camera. I did talk to one guy who said he sold his DSLR, but I think that's pretty rare.
Right, so you think that it's still a 2-camera setup?
I think it's still true. So what I'd like, and here's why I think mirrorless hasn't caught on. Now, I want to hear your opinions. I'm only going to give you mine, but I think the reason why, because I think you could show all kinds of reasons why mirrorless is better. I think that you would be hard pressed to find someone that says, on some level, that mirrorless probably is the future. That is, everybody would say probably the future is probably mirrorless.
Yes.
There's all kinds of advantages and things.
Yes.
But I think the problem is that when they've made mirrorless, they said, well, it's mirrorless, we don't need this mirror, so we can make a very nice, small, compact, lightweight camera. And there is an audience for very small, lightweight cameras. But there's also DSLR shooters love the DSLR form factor.
Yes.
I would not show up on a paid shoot straight up. I would not show up with a mirrorless. I would not. And I had a very, well. This was Joe McNally. I'll tell you. Joe and I were having a talk one day, and I said, "Man, you roll with just a ton of equipment to a job." And he said, "You know what? When someone's paying you $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, you better show up with a ton of gear, even if you don't use it."
Right.
They want to see, I spent all this money and I'm getting all this production. If you paid a photographer $30,000, $40,000 and they showed up with a mirrorless, I'd be like, what, is this for behind the scenes shots? No, this is what I'm shooting your campaign with. Okay, you're not shooting my campaign with that. Where's your real camera? So I want to see, and what I'm hoping we'll see, and so I'm talking to all the big camera manufacturers out there, I would love to see mirrorless in a DSLR body.
Right.
Give me the same body, give me the same feel. Because can I tell you what, just as my own personal story, I had some of the original early digital cameras, and I never really liked them. I never fell in love with them. They were a toy to me until I held in my hand and actually shot my first digital DSLR. From that day forward, that was it. I had to get one, and my wife bought me my very first DSLR was a Canon Rebel, the original Canon Rebel with the silver body. That was my very first DSLR. And that form factor to photographers, that's our form factor. And I think if I had to say why mirrorless has not been the success everybody hoped it would be, is because that form factor appeals as a second camera to serious photographers, not as your first camera. Yeah, that's just my opinion. RC.
So for me, and this is the part that's been really funny for me, because for me, I've always felt almost kind of like the opposite on it, where for me, I've always, I've loved DSLR cameras for two specific things: for their sturdiness, right? I want to be able to grab them and just kind of throw them in a bag, and I'm horribly hard on my gear. So I'm like throwing it in a bag, everything's just thrown out and just jostled all over the place. But that's the pro side, like going out and doing gigs and things like that.
Right.
But for me, I've always wanted to go down. I've always wanted to go smaller. And for the longest time, I was just like, I like the rangefinder format. So for me, I've always wanted to go into that size and not go into the big size.
But would that be your only camera?
And that's my problem. My problem is, and my problem is that I feel that cameras in this size are purely for, dare I say, artist creation and self-expression and things like that. That's what I like there. But I haven't been able to make the leap to say that this is something that I can do specifically for work, strictly from a robustness. And I don't have any reason to believe that one versus another couldn't be tougher. But I take a look at the DSLRs that I've used, and I'm like, these things are built like a tank, and I need them to be built like a tank because I'm throwing them around, I'm putting them in bags, I'm grabbing stuff like that. But that's the commercial side of me. That's the jobbing side of me. So, but I've always secretly wanted to go in the opposite direction. I've always wanted to go smaller and smaller and smaller. But that's just me.
Here's some comments coming in. So he says, but now that mirrorless is going full frame, why not mirrorless? Okay. He says, if you choose other than Nikon or Canon, you can't do what those shooters can do, like shoot tethered to Lightroom.
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Well, I can't think of a mirrorless camera that tethers to Lightroom.
No, but you can go wireless out of one into there's a way.
It doesn't let you tether. You would have to put it into a folder and then do a watched folder. Right. That kind of stinks. Ish. So there technically might be some.
It's a
some workaround. Yeah. All right. So that's number one. Is I think that our next evolution hopefully will be to mirrorless. Well, I don't know. I don't want to know if I say hopefully. I think that's where it's going to go. But I don't want mirrorless in the form factor camera companies keep delivering it to us. I want mirrorless at least make it an option. I'm not saying that camera companies shouldn't make them in the small factor. I'm just saying I would love to see Canon, obviously. I'd love to see Canon come out with a mirrorless SLR. Big one that uses, so I can use all my Canon lenses. Dude, I would love to be on the sidelines of a game with a 60 frame per second, some crazy, that's a whole nother level. But I wouldn't want it to be able to take all my Canon lenses. I don't want to have to get some other mount.
I just wish on that side, for me, if we're talking about the mirrorless side, I wish that there, if Canon is going to do that, right, and if they're going to do it, and obviously we have no idea, but if they were to do that, make sure that you pick a side. Like, if you're going to go small form factor, go small form factor. If you go big form factor, go big form factor. Because I think that...
Can't they offer both, though?
They could offer both. But what happens is, what I've seen, and again, this is just my opinion on things, is what will happen is on some mirrorless systems, you'll see, oh, well, you just have this one camera, right? And then you're like, oh, well, this is kind of cool. Like, I like it. I can buy into the lifestyle, right? I got it. And then they're like, well, if you want to use a really cool lens, click, click, and the lens is out here.
Right.
And now I'm like, if your lens is all the way out here for a camera that's this big, why not just replace the rest of the body and be done with it?
I know, but but also, let's just say that you buy an SLR, it's got the mirrorless in it, right?
But then at that point, you're at that size.
Right, we're at that size. But then your second camera, you would want to be mirrorless too. Then you could buy a smaller version.
But have them have small lenses, small kits, and things like that.
Okay.
So for me.
All right, that's one of mine. Number two is, I think that we overall have to stop the megapixel race. I don't think it's good for your average DSLR shooter. No. I know that, like, right now you have a bunch of companies coming out. Canon just came out with, by the way, I took that with me on vacation. I took the 50.2 megapixel 5DR with me on vacation. 5DSR. It's amazing. Because you're able to crop in on a level that's crazy. I don't need giant big stuff. Where do my images go? On the web, I need an image this big. But the detail and clarity is I think, why you're getting those. But that camera, I think, is for a very specific market. People who need really large output, commercial photography, landscape people that really want crazy detail. But I think that for your average shooter, what happens is, you're dealing with really, really large files, that it's like every camera is for a certain group, right? Every camera, like a Rebel is for some people, and a 5D Mark III is for some people, and all these other ones, those particular ones, they all have their market. And I think that so I'm not trying to say that those cameras shouldn't be available. I'm not trying to say anything like that. What I'm trying to say is What am I trying to say?
You're saying that there's a specific market of individuals that are using
right.
that kind of resolution.
That need that resolution. But I think for everybody else, it's not helping us. No. And I know that we're programmed to just keep buying more and more and more megapixels. And like I'm reading some people that are buying these super high ones, and I'm like, do you really need that high?
Well, and I think that one of the things that people don't get into it now, full disclosure, I happen to like it, and I happen to think that DSLR at that megapixel is something that I want to use as a competitive advantage. So full disclaimer, I have a competitive advantage argument for that.
Well, that's why I wanted to take that camera out myself.
So I think that that's a competitive advantage, but I think that there's two hats that I wear, right? There's the hat of the photographer, if you will, right? What I do here, and then another one that has kind of like the artist kind of in another space.
Right.
And in that space, what I say is people don't necessarily understand that 50 megapixels doesn't just mean bigger pictures. It means more RAM on your computer, more CF cards, more processing power out of your laptop, slower times to be able to transfer from removable drives. So there's a huge uptick in all of the technology that surrounds the camera that you get that isn't necessarily beneficial. I find that probably between 12 and 16 megapixels, I think is a pretty good sweet spot for me. I've gone to 24 by 30 on 16 megapixels and been totally fine.
Oh yeah, dude. I think 16 megapixels is actually 16 to 18 is a pretty good sweet spot. Now, that being said, for sports, see, this is why there's all these things. For sports, I need a higher megapixel.
Right.
Because I can't always be where the play is. If I'm on the 20-yard line and they throw a pass to the other end zone, I'm going to need to be able to crop into that shot, taken 100 yards away, and still have it suitable for print or for reproduction. So when it comes, so there's exceptions to all these things. But I think that overall that we're at a good megapixel thing now in the 18 to 24, and if you go above that, you're doing it because you have a reason. Like you really need it, not just because it makes better pictures. Hey, Diane wrote here, okay, I get the look of big gear. How many photographers, not just hobbyists, get $30,000 for a shoot? Let's get real. If the results are there, the client doesn't give a hoot what gear you use. Diane, you're wrong. Diane, your client absolutely cares what kind of gear you use. When you, and you can just do this, show up at a wedding. Show up at a wedding with a little tiny camera this big, a mirrorless. There'll be 25, 30 people at the wedding with better gear than you have. And your client's gonna be thinking, uh-oh. Go to the interview to get the wedding and show up with a little baby camera. Show up with a little tiny mirrorless camera and say, this is what I'm gonna shoot your wedding with. You'll never get the job. Half the audience there will have better and bigger cameras than you will, and it's going to freak them out. So, Diane, I completely disagree with what you're saying there. Now, the end result may look great. Like the end result may look fantastic. You could have Joe McNally show up at a shoot, give him a mirrorless camera. I'm sure he would take an amazing picture. I'm sure his pictures would look better than most of the people's pictures in the world. But Joe McNally is a businessman, a smart one. He's not going to show up to a shoot with a compact camera when he's been paid. I don't care if it's $2,000. He's not going to show up for it. So I just have to disagree with you on that. And maybe you haven't done a lot of commercial jobs, but if you do, they expect you to.
And then at that point, really, I mean, that point, unfortunately, is the side of that point is the side of business, and unfortunately, it's one of those things. It's business and perception, and you know what? Could you do a great job with those things? Absolutely. But that said, if you were to argue that, and you want to argue the slippery slope, you could do just as good of a job with a Rebel XTI. I mean, you could get really, like, you could shoot with a D7000. You could shoot all of these different things with these features. It's what happens, unfortunately, when the perception of business takes over the art of it. And then this is everywhere. Like, I remember I used to work for IBM, and I managed like a bunch of clients and a bunch of different people and a bunch of different projects. And I would go into meetings, and I remember one guy telling me, you should not park your car here and have people see you walk into a meeting.
I had that same thing.
And I was like, why? And they're like, because that car does not befit the position that you're in here.
Yes, I had.
And I was like, dude, it's my car, man. I'm like, and he's like, you should park over there and let them see you walk in.
I'll take it a step further.
And I'm like,
I'll take it a step further. When I'm not going to mention the company, but years ago, I was a financial consultant for a very, very, very large financial firm. We were in a meeting where we were told by our sales, actually a consultant that came in, that said, if you're going on a client appointment, this is straight up what he said, if you're going on a client appointment and you don't have a Lincoln, a Cadillac, a Mercedes, or equal, you need to rent one for the meeting. Do not show up to a client thing in a car that isn't a luxury car, because it says to the client, I'm not successful, how could I possibly make you successful? They told us to go and rent a car, to go and rent a luxury car for client appointments.
Now, guys, understand that all of the stuff that we're talking about, there is a huge, huge difference in what's happening with this, because I think that you would argue that let's say you're using the 1DX now, right? That's
Yes.
to mean that up until now, all of your pictures have sucked because now you have the best camera, right? You don't argue that any camera can do it. Every camera that you've had, you've produced great work on it.
Yeah, I had some guy call me out on that recently. So this guy called me out, and basically he said, Scott, I've been to your seminars and you talk about you don't need to have crazy expensive lenses. You don't need to have crazy expensive cameras, which is what I believe. And he goes, but you're such a hypocrite because I see you shoot with a 1DX. And I'm like, but I want a 1DX. If you get successful, I don't have to have a nice car either. I can get all kinds of car that will get me to work exactly the same way. But I want a nice car. Dang it.
But more than that, I think that you've also chosen the platform to be able to fill a specific need that you have, which is Scott Kelby sports.
Right. The 1DX is the best sports camera I've ever used in my life. Right. It's unbelievable.
But you're not running around going, hey, listen, I'm just shooting on the weekends every now and again on a meetup group. Look at my 1DX.
But can I tell you what? I see people.
Did,
if you've got the money, I see people at my workshops all the time that have 1DXs and have incredible lenses and stuff. And if they can afford it, why not? Now, I would never tell somebody, look, you're not going to be able to get a good shot with this camera. This is just a bad camera. You need a 1DX. Right. I would never tell anybody that, because it's like everything else I've said. It's appropriate to what you want to do. But if you're successful, if you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, an anesthesiologist, whatever you are, and you want to go buy a really good camera, absolutely. Absolutely. Just like if you're a golfer, you can be a crappy golfer and go buy really nice clubs.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that in the world. Now, can you still take a good golf shot with a set of Spaldings from Target?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But if you got the money and you want to go get a set of Callaways, or you want to get, I don't know what the latest driver is, the great big Bertha, the Ultra Bertha, the whatever it is, yeah, absolutely. Go and do it. That doesn't make you a hypocrite. It just means you've been successful enough. You can go buy some nice golf clubs.
Right. So
I don't have nice golf clubs.
So as we talk about this, I think that there's an important delineation to be able to make, that a lot of these, if we're talking general use versus commercial use or working use and things like that, there's a specific amount of things that you are going to need in that one space. But one of the first things that we could talk about there is you'd like to be able to see the mirrorless evolution go into a DSLR form factor.
Yes, I would love that. That's number one. Yes.
Okay, so from that. And then we'd like to talk about, from there, megapixels.
I don't need a bunch of megapixels. I don't think the world needs a whole bunch. But there are people who need a 1DX. There's people who need 50 megapixels.
Those are all exceptions.
You're one of those. You're a person that needs 50 megapixels.
So you want to go...
Now, I will say this.
Okay.
I got to shoot a 50 megapixel this week. The detail and stuff is insane. But for what I generally do, I don't need it every day.
Right.
So I may not be the exact target market. You know who's the exact target market? Someone who has a medium format camera that doesn't want to pay $30,000, $40,000.
Right.
Like Peter
For
Hurley.
2 lenses.
So Peter Hurley was a guy that was like using medium format
right.
and stuff, and now he's using the Canon. But that's because he is the target market for that.
Right.
You do a lot of HDR, real high detail stuff. You print stuff huge.
Right.
You are the target market for something really big.
Right, and that sits at that one specific.
Hey, we got to take a break because Brad's saying nasty things, which I stuck my tongue out at him for. I want to talk some more things. I want to get a bunch more of your comments as soon as we get back.
It's just like, it just went nuts.
Look, someone else saying the client's not going to care. That sounds like someone who doesn't have clients. Hey, we'll take a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. They're going to go, yes, I do. I have lots of clients.
Award-winning photojournalist Joe McNally, Dave Black, Olympic sports photographer, decorated combat photographer Stacy Pearsall, nationally recognized portrait and wedding photographer Roberto Valenzuela. Just a few of the amazing instructors you'll interact with when you attend Photoshop World in Las Vegas. Hands-on training with the best in photography and design. Learn more in 3 days than you have in 3 years. Photoshop World. Be with the best.
Create your own space at squarespace.com.
Hi, I'm Joel Grimes. I want to invite you to my class on becoming a marketing genius. We're going to talk about things like the truth about marketing, overcoming the fear of rejection, and keeping up with the trends, and a whole lot more. So join me on my class here at KelbyOne.com.
Hey, we're back.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Grid. RC, Scott.
Hey.
Talking about the future of DSLRs. Not so much the future DSLRs, but what are the kinds of things that you can see? What are the kinds of things that you would want?
We got to get, this is a big one.
Okay.
So I hope the camera manufacturers are listening. You know what it is? Think about this. You cannot buy a DSLR today that I know of. Maybe there's one, but not one that I would buy. But you can't buy a DSLR that has a screen as big as your cell phone.
Yeah.
They're basically, almost every DSLR has a tiny 3-inch screen. Now, some have pop-out screens that, you know, what do they call that? Not articulated screens. Okay. But what's the most important thing we do is we check for sharpness and we're taking photos. It's like we use our cell phone, we get a big giant screen. We go to my DSLR, 3 inches. Mm-hmm. You know how small a 3-inch screen is? It's absolutely tiny. So number one is the whole back of the camera should be a touch screen. And it should be a touchscreen with the quality of today's smartphones. Not one where you have to press real hard and all that kind of stuff. Should be a really nice touchscreen. Basically, you know what I would love to see? All right, Canon, are you listening? Here's what I would love to see. Ready? A DSLR body where you can take your phone and just stick it into it. And then you get all the DSLR functionality, but then I can upload to the web, I can tweak my images, I can imagine if you could just take your phone and go into a Canon body. And I can use all the Canon lenses, and I got a regular shutter, and I can do all the other stuff. I have the low light capability. I'm not using the camera and the phone anymore.
But see, and right now they're close to it. There's companies that are close.
Yeah, but not.
But it's not.
But what's weird
is
just
not in that form factor.
They're close in the consumer space.
In the consumer space.
That's why I'm talking about DSLRs.
Right.
They're close down there, but they're not close up top. Right. And that's what I'm talking about is the DS, like our viewers and stuff.
Okay. Well, DSLR. So then, would you say that DSLRs have left the consumer space and have gone into that?
Well, we know that most of the DSLRs are bought by consumers, but it's a very different buyer who buys a DSLR versus who buys a point and shoot or just uses their phone. They're all photographers, but they're at different points of their career. Like if you're a serious photographer, you know, you're going to have a serious camera of some sort. Okay. So I would say that if you take a DSLR, which you would say an expensive DSLR is for a serious photographer. Whether you're working or not, it doesn't matter, but you're serious about photography, right?
Enthusiastic photographer.
It's very, but a serious or enthusiast or whatever. That thing should be able to do a number of things. Number one, it should have a great touch screen. Number two is you should absolutely positively, someone wrote this up here, Drew, said, how about having an SSD storage inside a big camera that can be able to send those images as JPEGs via Wi-Fi?
Right. So, and yeah, I mean, I think that's a great thing. I've never understood. I've never understood
some camera. It's not a DSLR.
How these things don't have some portion of SSD storage. Like it's in any camera that I've looked at, when I turn it on and it says no card in camera, like you can't do anything. I'm like, why don't you just put like 2 gigs of reserve?
Right.
Like
just put an SSD
help
card
me
in there.
Space. Just throw something in there small. I think that would be, and in any camera platform, I think that would be something that'd be good.
Okay.
An emergency buffer.
All right. So Brad just showed me, I guess, a Litro. Is that? I couldn't read it from here because I'm old. Showed me a Litro camera, but and it's got a big giant. Yeah, you can just bring it over. A big giant background on it. It's got a big screen, right?
It's a touch screen.
It's a touch screen. Ooh, it's a big. Okay, it's not big enough, but it's getting there. All right, look. All right, so it's not big enough. So if your other screen was a 3-inch, this is what? Well, actually, Brad, if you look at it, there's a lot of screen space, but there's a lot of controls. That's probably, the window is probably about 3 inches.
But I'm saying the touchscreen part of it.
Oh, the touchscreen part is big, yeah, and it looks like it works okay.
Yeah.
But
it's a Litro.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said that a little loud.
Okay.
It's a Litro.
Right. Okay. So anyway, but here's the deal. So picture the back of your DSLR is just all screen.
Right.
Right. And you can configure it. I would want to be able to configure it, you know, split screen or full screen. I would love to be able to toggle back and forth real quick between things. But like, I'll tell you what. No, I have one of these. Is the only reason I can talk to it. The Canon 70D. The Canon 70D. Someone asked me about it on Twitter this week. So what's a good camera? I get the Canon 70D. It has the touch screen. You pinch to zoom. You swipe through the images like that. But when we get to the upper levels, I want it there. I want a bigger screen. I want to be able to swipe with my fingers. I want to pinch to zoom. I want all the things that the Canon 70D has on newer, bigger cameras. Now, I know that when the 70D Mark II came out, they didn't add a touchscreen because it was a sports camera. They knew that you're either shooting wildlife or sports, and they were like, you know what? We're not going to build a touchscreen in something that's going to break when you're on the sidelines.
Right.
And I'm telling you what, you talk about being hard on a camera, dude shooting sports, you're banging into everything. You're banging into all kinds of stuff. I can see how
that's a really
break.
good feature. I just finished saying Ustream of 4553. Wish they had Bluetooth in a camera. I would like Bluetooth.
If you had Bluetooth in the camera, what would it do? What would you have it do?
I would either do remote operation of the DSLR or wireless transfer back. Now,
I like the remote.
I've seen that. I've seen technology like this in not a DSLR form factor. So if you look at that stuff.
Okay, yeah, but you know what? That's another thing.
That's the thing.
So there was a Nikon camera I had. I don't remember what it was, but I had a Nikon camera years ago, and on it there was a remote that you could get, a wireless remote, and I'm not kidding. What was it, Brad? $10? It was $10. You could go to B&H for $10, click, and it shot it perfectly, completely wireless. Now you buy a camera that's $4,000, $5,000, and the wireless is like $400 or $500. Why can't it be $10?
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like, I think that the implementations that happen on that stuff are not happening in the space that you wanted in on the DSLR
they're
side.
happening down low.
Like,
how do we bring those features up to DSLRs?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think on the mirrorless space, I've seen some of that stuff, and I'm like, it's kind of neat. And look, so 4717. So the comment is Sony does this. Now, again, this is going to be my opinion. Here's the problem that I have with Sony. And I think Sony puts out a great camera. Wonderful. A lot of people are using it.
But
what happens is this. What happens is you go, all right, well, let's take a look at an A7. Ooh, this is beautiful. I'm getting into the world of lenses. I'm getting into the world of photography. Got it. Mirrorless is in. They go, all right, you want to be able to shoot a 28, 2.8? Here you go. And all of a sudden, you have this problem.
You have this sticking off of your thin, tiny camera.
Is a problem.
I got another problem.
If all of a sudden you're going mirrorless and this is what's happening, and all of a sudden your most basic of lenses is almost as big, if not bigger, than a DSLR, then why would I would get rid of this in a second and go back to my DSLR.
Right.
So I can't tell you how many people I know look at that stuff and turn around and go, yeah, it sounded like a good idea, but if I'm gonna have DSLR-sized lenses on my mirrorless, I'm just gonna go back to my DSLR.
And you know what though? The Sony range of lenses is really like, you never, ever, ever, ever see a sports photographer shooting Sony. Never. I've never, ever seen a single one because they just don't make the lenses. They don't make the lenses for wildlife. They don't make the lenses for sports. So that's a whole different gap.
And that said, I mean, like when we took a look at the mirrorless side of it, I'm talking about a lot of the mirrorless technology that I've seen that I like sits in that same small space. Again, that has nothing to do. I prefer the small size for most of that stuff.
Yeah, you do.
But the problem is, we're talking about is what happens with the DSLR side of it.
Right.
What happens when you're looking for that big, tough, bulky camera?
All right, can I ask for something else?
Yes, sir.
Since we're dreaming of what we'd like to see, I would love to see us standardize on a freaking memory card format.
Yes.
Let's either choose SD or let's choose compact flash and just go with it. Because we have an SD card and a compact flash and all, it makes our lives tougher. As photographers, having multiple things, why can't we have either just pick one and go with it. Across, like if you're Sony or Nikon or Canon or whoever, just pick one. I would love to be able to have them just across the board just go, we as camera manufacturers are all going to standardize on this. It would make SD. I'm fine with SD.
SD UHS 2.
Pick something. Pick
Sorry.
Pick something. Pick something.
Very specific.
All right. Number 3. Here's the next one I would love to see. So picture my DSLR, how I'm making it in my mind here. So I have a DSLR body with a mirrorless inside. I got a huge, awesome touchscreen on the back. It articulates, right? And I can use any of my lenses that I've got. I've got Wi-Fi. I've got Bluetooth, an inexpensive wireless control. I have a way to get my images to the web. I would love to be able to have apps and things, just like you do on, your phone. I would love for a third party to be able to make apps, because you know what it is? There are times where I'll reach for my phone where I know I'm not going to get as good a picture. I know it's not going to be as good a picture by a long shot, which is what's leading me up to my next one. But I know I can get this up to the web now.
Right.
And like my wife, when we're on vacation, she's posting things to Instagram and posting things to Twitter and all. And she's like, "Did you get anything?" I'm like, "I don't know. I have to wait till I get back and see. Once I can get back and download my card and then open them up, and then I can see." So I love that immediacy and thing. But you know what we need to do? The next realm of DSLRs needs to focus on not megapixels, better low light shooting.
Yes.
Because I can tell you what, there is nobody that can walk out and not get a good shot in regular daylight. Any camera, anybody, walk outside on a beautiful day, click, 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 and that's fine. You can get really nice quality any day.
Right.
The problem that every photographer has is indoors.
Yep, nighttime.
Nighttime, indoors, all that stuff. If you're not using a tripod, you're out of luck. Your chances, and you know what? I'll give you an example. When I'm at my seminars, right, on the breaks, people want to take a picture with me or something, I'm always happy to take a picture. And Brad will tell you this straight up, is if someone walks up and takes a cell phone and takes a picture, it works every time. They go, click, got it, thanks. If they come up with a DSLR, they go like this, click, oh, hold on, click, wait, click, and they'll hand Brad the thing, and Brad's over there trying to figure out how to make some camera he's never used before. It's like, we have to get to that point where DSLRs can shoot it really high, because that's the only reason why the phone works. Your phone's always turned on to auto ISO. It's always auto ISO. Now, it may take a crappy, noisy picture, but it will take the picture, and it won't look underexposed. And so DSLRs have this feature. Most of them do, auto ISO, but it's never turned on. Most people, I can't tell you how many photographers I talked to about auto ISO, they have no idea it exists. And I've been using it more and more. I love, because I can go to a football game indoors, like in a dome or at night, and say, don't ever let my shutter speed fall below 1/1000th of a second. It will automatically pick the ISO. Now, why does that work? Because I'm using a 1DX. Right? If you're using an awesome camera that's awesome in low light, you can use auto ISO all over the place. If you're using a lower end camera, so that's the next thing. That would be the next thing. If you're using a lower end camera, you're out of luck. The next thing is a focus on noise instead of a focus on megapixels. So now I've got a DSLR that has low noise. It's not very expensive, but I got a big screen on the back. It's touch screen. It articulates. I've got Bluetooth. All this technology exists. There's nothing that I've said today that is like, well, we don't have that technology. That technology is not ready yet. It's not available yet. Every one of these things exists in some kind of, and even like, so I'm a Canon shooter. Canon has all of this. There's every bit of this. Do they do mirrorless? They don't do mirrorless, do they? No, but they have every bit of this technology available to them to be able to pop in there, right? So it's not like we can't do it. It's just the will to do it, I guess. Let's see.
There's a bunch of different things. Maybe we can get Taylor Swift can get Apple to make this camera. That'd be nice. She can write a convincing letter.
So you know what's interesting? So last year I was on a panel at Photo Plus Expo in New York City, and the topic was the future of photography. Now they wanted to look at photography 10 years in the future. And so I was on this panel, and you know who was on the panel? Me, a rep from Nikon, a rep from Sony, and a rep from Canon. Like they're big marketing guys, all three of them. Well, what do you think the guys from Canon and Nikon and Sony could possibly say about anything that's being developed? Nothing. They can't say anything. They can't tell you, well, we're developing a camera that does blank, blank, blank. They can't even talk about it. Right. So all they could do is give very general, things. And I was only able to say, okay, here's, I gave what 10 years in the future would be. I was saying
graphene sensors.
Graphene sensors. That's right. Graphene sensors.
Graphene sensors.
Graphene sensors. I said we shouldn't have f-stops anymore. No. Nobody that designed a camera today would say, hey, let's pick these f-stops. You would go 1 to 10. And it would just be darker, lighter. It would be very simple. And I even said, I looked at the panel of the guys from Canon, Nikon, and Sony, and I looked at them and I said, guys, someone is going to change the landscape big time, and it's not going to be any of you three. It's probably going to be Apple. What? Because if Apple decided to come out with a camera, it would be vastly different than any other camera, right? Yep. They would come out with something that they wouldn't go f2.8, f5.6. They wouldn't have those f4. They wouldn't have those f-stops. They wouldn't have the ISO as the way it is. It would just be a whole rethinking. And one day somebody will. But that was a 10-year down the road thing. Right. These things are here. They're this close to today. All right, somebody said Scott hasn't touched a Sony camera, has he? Absolutely. I've taken Sonys. I've done shoots. I think they're okay, but I've already listed some of the things that are
like what you had
real short.
We had the Alpha 77 here, and then we had the A7S
and the 99. We've had a number of them here. Yes, I've shot Sony cameras, and number one is I don't think the electronic viewfinder is where it should be yet. Now, are electronic viewfinders perhaps the future?
Yes,
but they got to look a whole lot better.
Here's the thing: there's electronic viewfinders that are better than the one that's so. Never mind.
Stop. Anyway, so nothing against Sony, but I've used Sony cameras. I've done shoots with them. I've documented them on my blog.
Yeah, I mean, part of our business here, just so that people understand, like, when you talk to Scott, and this is fair to say, when you talk about what we're working here, there's two sides of you, right? There's the one person who's the sports photographer who has decided to move over to the Canon side.
Right.
Who's decided to do that because of the business purpose for using Canon as a sports photographer.
Yeah.
Got it. But the second half of it, and this goes to this, I think Scott and RC's problem is that the only thing Canon can make good cameras, which is not true. There are more companies that make good DSLRs. Here's the thing. We're in the business to work and take a look at things like Nikon and Fuji and Sony and Pentax and Leica. I mean, we've shot with all of those things.
All of them.
On the break, I'm like, listen, I got this, and we talk about this, and we work with this. I mean, we've done that.
We get to shoot everything.
So it's part of that. Like, the frustration doesn't come from you want to see one manufacturer do one thing. The frustration comes from I see a lot of the features that I want in this one side, and I'm like, if they're here, why are they not
go here? That's what, and I know you guys by default want to make it a thing about which company versus which company, right? That's where we always go to. That's not what this is about. I'm not trying to talk you into getting one brand over another. What I'm trying to say is the camera companies, right?
Right.
None of them are, now you could say that Sony might be doing some of these things, Nikon's doing some of them, Canon's doing some of them.
Right.
Nobody's doing it all, right? If you had to put it together, I don't think Sony makes a DSLR with a screen this big,
right?
And that has touch screen, that has all this kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Scott King says, what? KelbyOne is a business? Hey, look, we get to evaluate all kinds of stuff. All kinds of different cameras. That's why we have a Litro sitting here. We get to evaluate all kinds of stuff. RC's got some mirrorless cameras in a bag over here. We evaluate stuff all the time. We're always looking and I shoot all kinds of different stuff. Now, for my personal work, I sold all my Nikon stuff. I use nothing but Canon. That was a choice I made. I didn't have to make that choice, obviously. I could have kept all my gear. I could have kept all my, I don't have anything left in Nikon. No bodies, no lenses, nothing.
But it's just that thing from
a
text.
I was given.
It's just that tech spec thing. It's just, why do you see it in some of these cases, and when is that stuff going to make it over to the DSLR
Yeah,
side?
all of this stuff, all the technology exists in the DSLR market today. Can we just I would love for us to get together, instead of all bickering between which brand you use, let's do a Taylor Swift and get behind and say, hey guys, DSLR makers, all of you, let's take this to the next level. Let's take some of the great stuff that you're putting in consumer cameras and let's ramp it up to the level of these pro cameras. That's what I would love to see. That's the big thing. I don't think there's any. Was there anything else on my list there?
No, megapixels, Wi-Fi, touchsform, the ability to be able to shoot without
but
an
all
stop.
That stuff, it's all out there. It's every bit of it is out there in one format or another.
Yeah.
How do we take that and push it up the ladder? You know, it's like I talk about this with guitars. You meet a guy that plays guitar. You meet a guitarist, and they go, "What kind of guitar you play?" And they're like, "Oh, I got a Fender Strat." "Oh yeah, man, I got a Les Paul Custom." "Oh, I love Les Pauls."
Right.
In the guitar market, whatever guitar you have, other guitar players love you. In the camera market, it's time to pull out knives. You've got that one. Why don't you talk about mine? Some guy wrote today when I said, "Hey, we're going to be on the grid today," and this guy wrote, I won't tell you his name, but it was on my Facebook page.
It's just a crazy conversation. Like I'm looking at all this, and they're like, "Yes, Canon, Nikon, please do what Sony's doing." You don't want to do that.
No, you don't. Please don't do that. All right.
Don't do that.
So this guy says, let me guess, they should all say Canon on the front. Nothing else exists since his sponsorship deal. So let me ask you this, the guy's name, I'm not going to tell you his name. So why didn't he complain? Why didn't he complain when all I ever talked about was Nikon? You know what? For years, I never ever mentioned Canon in any way, ever, in any shape. And I never saw this guy say, why don't you? Now, I did see Canon people say, why don't you ever mention Canon? It was because I wasn't shooting Canon. It wasn't because I get paid from Nikon. It wasn't like Nikon gave me money. It was that this is what I shoot.
Yeah, I think it's, unfortunately, it's a sign of the times. I think what happens is people.
I know, but why does that not happen in guitars? Like guitarists, whatever guitar you have, I don't care. You walk up to another guitarist and you go, I have a Gretsch whatever with a Bixby whammy bar, and they're like, "Oh, dude, that's so cool." There's such a different respect between guitarists. And by the way, they all pretty much sound the same. Yeah, Strat sounds this way with double humbuckers. Yeah, we got to put some EMGs on a Les Paul. They sound a little different, but there's a great amount of respect. Brad's got a good point. Brad says musicians all do drugs, so they're just more mellow. But that just doesn't exist in that market. And you know what's weird? Can I tell you something? This has nothing to do with anything, but listen to me, because I want you to think about this, all right? In the guitar market, everybody buys two guitars, for the most part. The guitar market is dominated by Fender Strats and Gibsons. Two guitars that were designed in the 1950s. What product do you buy that's exactly like it? It's no different. If you buy a Strat from today and I hold it up and I take one from the 1950s, you go, oh, it's the same guitar. They're the same. Except for the one from the 50s is really expensive. $30,000, $28,000 there. They're like a medium format camera for an old guitar. Yeah. But anyway, these cameras are getting that same way. That a DSLR, my Canon Rebel is not tremendously different functionality-wise. Is the screen bigger? Yeah, it's what the guy said at the beginning. Everything is a incremental upgrade. Mm-hmm. It's time for a big, big, big upgrade. Hey, ooh, this is a good one. This is a good one. US Streamer 75221 says, because not everybody pretends to be a professional guitarist.
Yeah.
So what he's saying, of course, is because everybody pretends to be a professional photographer.
Yeah. You know what? And that's the part that kind of sucks about it, because it's like we would like to think that what people are doing is just wanting to be better artists. It's just wanting to work on better art stuff. And to have a conversation where you turn around and you go, well, these features would be nice to have them over here, and to be nice, I shoot this thing right here, I prefer this thing right here. Just to be able to just argue a feature set without going into a kind of a brand fight just kind of feels weird.
Why does it have to always go there?
And but I mean, it's sign of the times. It's kind of what happens.
Because you know what? If somebody else uses a different brand, what does it matter to you?
Oh, people are asking, my shirt is bouncing. No, my shirt was bouncing because I was just kind of fanning myself a little bit here.
Yeah, it's very warm in the studio. In fact, it's so warm we should probably wrap the show up. Hey, we have a deal for our viewers. Peach Pit always gives our viewers a deal.
40% off of this book. Make sure you go to peachpit.com/KelbyOne, enter in the code KelbyOne, and you'll get this ebook, A Photographer's Guide to Shooting and in unconventional locations by Nick Fancher. So make sure.
Yeah, dude, he was just my guest blogger. Nick Fancher. He was great.
He's got some great.
Nick Fancher, wider than a mile. Okay.
So I say that. I say that, and at the next breath, I slam Sony. It's not a question of slamming Sony. For me, I was telling you my point with all of it is that I prefer being either on one side of the fence or the other side of the fence. That's all I was saying. I'm not trying to make a position about one being better than another. I'm just saying that if you're going to take a side, take a side. If you're going to go mirrorless, adopt the mirrorless lifestyle. Let me put 6 lenses in a bag. If you're not, then go the DSLR route. That's all.
Why can't you do both?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. If you're going to have 2 of them, just have 2 of them. That's all I was saying. It was just interesting.
So let's see. Time for a break.
New class.
Until next week.
So, Active Lifestyle with Eric Valen, that we get up and running with Eric Valen in his latest class.
See this? See that woman? Look at her foot. It's broken, obviously.
So, get up and moving with Eric Valen. His latest class in Active Lifestyle Photography. Lifestyle photography is all about capturing believable moments and showing that ideal reality in an image. When done right, it should be made that you want to jump into the photograph and join people in the picture. In this class, Eric takes you through the basics of just... They're great. He shoots lifestyle stuff.
Eric's good. He shoots lifestyle stuff. Blah,
it's an awesome class. Make sure you take a look at it.
Go watch it. Hey, we just Photoshop World is coming up here in August, so we're just a little over a month or so away. We have a new 2 and 3 pay option for Photoshop World tickets. So if you select the 2 pay option, you actually get the Adobe Creative Cloud annual subscription with your Photoshop World ticket. You get the Lightroom and the Photoshop with your ticket.
So that's pretty
Next is if you select the 3 pay option, you'll get a ticket to rock out at our rock and roll after hours party with Rebel Soul. Rebel Soul.
Make sure you get these limited time options by going to photoshopworld.com/choose.
All right, we got contest, RC. Tell them about the contest.
All you got to do is go to KelbyOne.com/contest. Put in your name, put in your email address. Tell us what you want to see. Tell us what you want to win.
Yes, you must tell us what you want to win. So we are giving away these prizes. Here we go. We're giving away this book. This is
The Hidden Power of Adjustment Layers.
The Hidden Power of Adjustment Layers by Scott Valentine. My copy of my book, the Lightroom CC book for digital photographers. Yay. And
Picture Perfect Posing by Roberto Venezuela.
Picture Perfect Posing by Roberto Venezuela.
Awesome book.
He's an awesome guy. Very, very great, terrific teacher. Also, we're giving away a ticket to my London seminar.
That's
I
right.
am July 14th in Swingin', London, right there at the Westminster Conference Center, right next to Big Ben. You can walk out the front doors and look, and there's Big Ben. That's how close we are. It's right, boom, there. And I want to see you there. I had a great time there last year. This is an all-new seminar. It is not the same one that was there. This is all new. It's designed to pick up where the other one left off. Hope to see you there. We're going to give away a ticket. So when you do enter the contest, tell us which book or if you want to come to the London gig. Okay, time for a break. Until next week, we've got shoots to talk about, and you've got books to sign, and tickets to a Taylor Swift concert in the city of your choice is not a giveaway. RC, where can people learn more about you?
If you guys want to follow me on any stuff, make sure that you go to aboutrc.com. You can find all of the social media stuff, plus links to the stuff that I do on KelbyOne. And you're at?
ScottKelby.com. Go by my daily blog. We've had some really, really great guest bloggers. And make sure you go check out Brad's stuff. Brad, thank you for adding your commentary to today's.
Yeah, that was really good.
That was very good. And I appreciate the guns and the thumbs. That was very nice. Guns and
Very
thumbs.
welcome.
It's kind of like Guns N' Roses, but you know. But they're already a band, so.
You can find me at BeMoreVisuals.com. If you can't remember that, you go to BradTakesPictures.com or BradsBeard.com.
That's right. He registered BradsBeard.com. It takes you right to his concert shots. So go to Brad's Beard. You know you want to go to Brad's Beard anyway, don't you? Oh, does your red light come on when that camera comes on?
Yeah, they put a red light on me.
All right, thanks everybody. Thanks to all our sponsors. Thanks for hanging there with us. We're going to leave you with a comment from Ustreamer64071, which is really not a really great name. I think you want to talk to your parents about that one. And it is, can we just take better photos?
I hope so.
Amen. That's what we've built a whole company just to help you do that. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Take care.